Let's now start the final sub-chapter of the first chapter and see where this goes. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bat and sat on top of the futon I used to barricade my door. Waiting. Watching just in case someone tried to break in through my window. If I left this spot, someone would break through the door, sending the futon flying and attack me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break through the glass and attack me. I tried telling myself I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant taking that risk, I didn't need it. It was so much better to just stay awake. At some point during that endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside. But that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was just the sun simply having risen. I snuck a peek out through the curtains. Rena was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time, but I needed to make my own breakfast, so I better get started soon. Skipping school was also an option. With my mom gone, it'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable. So staying holed up in here was probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oishi-san wouldn't help me without cold hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So unless I found some sort of proof, these relentless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. I regulated my breathing and regained my senses. Calm down, Keiichi. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure irrefutable evidence. Take note of the plates of any car that drives by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself. I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they drew their katanas. I was not at a disadvantage. I would not have a chance to retaliate. Or I would have a chance to retaliate. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. Alright, let's go to school. I tightened my grip. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He was the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength. And entrust your dying regrets to me, since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run into Rena or Mion, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right. I meant to clean that up last night, but never got around to it with the phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned it up right now, and considering what would happen if I ran into Rena or Mion, it wouldn't be too late to clean it up after I got back home. Making extra certain that the doors are locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today, I was going to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, Keiichi. The only one who gets to decide if today is my last is me. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Rena arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Rena said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Satoko and the others that the bandages were from hurting herself in the kitchen, though it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that Oishi-san shared about Rena's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Rena as a cute, ideal girl.
Kei-chan! 相変わらず甲子園一直線だね。
It was Mion. I'd already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised.
ミオンか。分かってるなら放っておいてくれよ。俺は甲子園で忙しいんだ。
I give her a curt reply without my usual jokes. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing, tactically keeping Mion from getting any closer.
ケイちゃんさ、ちょっと休憩。
I think Mion got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest.
ホームルームまであとちょっとだろ。もう一汗かかせてくれよ。
I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal.
ケイちゃんって野球好きだったっけ？
最近好きになった。
最近って昨日から？
分かってんなら聞くなよ。
あれまあ。スポーツマンにしては爽やかじゃないお返事だことで。
気が散る。放っておいてくれ。
I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Normally, she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this. But Mion just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility. But we were at school, in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out.
何か用なんだろう。なんだよ。
Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I might not be able to move as needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina in addition to the excuse for carrying the bat around with me.
用ってわけでもないけどさ。お疲れのようなら後にするけど。
今でいい。
I'm only dealing with you right now because I judge the situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and away from others, that's out of the question.
さ。
And I don't think we've seen this face before. Mion was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Oishi-san, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mire.
おじさんダメだわ、こういうの。ボキャ品は辛いわ。
なんだよ突然。言いたいことがあるならはっきりと言えよ。
やめてよ。素振り。
She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank I didn't understand it for a moment. I'd already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I?
ちゃんとやめてるだろ。
じゃなくて、今日で終わりにしてほしいの。悪いけど。
It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. What's wrong with swinging a bat?
なんでだよ。余計なお世話だよ。別に誰にも迷惑かけてないだろ。
かけてる。
Mion said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating.
俺がいつ誰に迷惑をかけたよ。
Mion was at a loss for words. But she finally made up her mind and spoke. Though she stuttered as she said it.
だってさ、ケイちゃん、それ、人のバットだしさ、無断借用は悪いし。
転校した生徒の忘れ物だろ。本人が取りに来るまで借りてるだけだよ。
ああ、まあね、転校したし。
And I don't think we've seen this one either. Because normally she's happy or smug. Mion grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that his transfer was a lie.
でも変わってるよな。兄貴だけ転校なんだろ。妹は転校しなかったんだろ。
Mion couldn't hide her reaction as my words shook her up.
ケイちゃん、知ってたの？
北条聡、聡子の兄貴だろ。去年鬼隠しにあって消えた。
Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent.
レナにも言われた。なんで素振りを始めたのかってな。サトシもやってたんだってな。素振り。それも失踪の直前に。これってさ、お社様のたたりに会う前兆ってわけなのか？
Mion panicked and looked around.
頼むよ、ケイちゃん。お社様の話はうかつにしないでよ。
I don't believe you've seen this one either. That one's really cute.
私はそんなに信じてないからいいけどさ、他のみんなはすごく信じてる。レナなんかやばいくらいに。
やばいくらいに？
とにかく。
Or this one.
みんな怖がってるんだよ。もしもこれが悪ふざけならやめな。サトシの真似は絶対にやめて。
I was the one who was scared. Why do I have to thank... Sorry. Who do I have to thank for taking up this bat in the first place? But it still unsettled me knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It would be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions.
先に言っとく。俺はサトシのことは何も知らない。みんなが隠してたからな。
隠してたってわけじゃ。
毎年起こる事件のことを隠してたろ。
あ、それはケイちゃんを。
I don't believe we've seen this one either, or have we? Yeah, we have.
怖がらせたくなかったってのか？
Sorry, like the text, like the block kind of made it seem like a different face.
それが理由で俺だけのけ者かよ。
いや、そんなつもりじゃ。
ミオンに直にダム現場で事件がなかったかって聞いたよな。ミオンはないって言ったじゃないか。バラバラ殺人があったのによ。嘘つき野郎。
ごめん、嘘ってわけじゃ。
仲間ってのは隠し事なんかなしだろ。
KG.
そうだろ。じゃあお前らは仲間じゃない。
イちゃん、そんなのって。
Mion looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? I never could have imagined Mion acting like this.
ああ、それに先日の見舞いのおはぎ、あれうまかったぜ。血が出るかと思った。やったのはどっちだ？お前かレナか？
私。
She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised at how easy that was.
死ぬかもしれなかったんだぞ。仲間にあんな真似をするのかよ。
そんなちょっとしたいたずらじゃん。
It's just a prank, bro. And the prank is having needles stuffed inside of like mochi that are so thin and so small that you won't realize that they're there, so that when you swallow them, they will tear through your intestinal lining and then cause internal bleeding for you to die. Ain't that just a funny little goof? It's just a little prank. Mion gave a wry smile mixed with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside me.
あれがいたずらで済むかよ。
I grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce in a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I had swallowed that and lodged it in my throat, what did she think would happen? Mion's face froze as her body rattled with fear. This wasn't the Mion Sonosuke I knew anymore.
とにかくお前は仲間じゃない。仲間じゃない奴の指図は受ける言われはない。俺のことは当分放っておいてもらうぜ。いいな。
Mion wasn't replying anymore.
俺を消そうとしても簡単にはいかないからな。お前らは最初から警察に疑われてんだ。サトシを消せたように簡単に消せると思うなよ。
I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war.
俺も過去の事件はお前らが怪しいと思ってる。ダムの反対運動の時からお前が警察の世話になってたこともよく知ってる。隠しきれてると思うなよ。いいな。
どうしてそんなことまで。
Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. This was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom.
行こうぜ。委員長がいないとまずいだろ。ん？
At that moment, for the first time I realized Mion was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks.
ひどいよ、ケイちゃん。
I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty.
俺、行くぜ。ホームルーム遅れるなよ。
I left Mion, still shaking as I turned around to head for the entrance. Oh, that makes me feel so fucking bad. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter. She was speaking to herself.
そっか。
え？
She wasn't saying it. She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself. But it was a sobbing voice that had a kind of giddy cursing tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her.
ケイちゃんに全部バラしたのあの野郎か。
She balled up her fist as her tears continued to rain down. She glared at a spot on the ground with a terrifying yet smiling face, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from that demonic expression. This transformation, Mion's transformation, was different from Rena's.
あの時殺しとくんだったな。今年で定年だからって容赦してやった恩も忘れやがって。
Retiring this year. Was she talking about Oishi-san?
ちくしょう。 畜生、あのじじい。絶対に殺してやる。
It felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center, the world had begun to twist and spiral, bending, whirling. This was the first time I'd experienced such a visage.
起立気をつけ
I hadn't, by the way. So don't worry about it. If anything, like I said, if you want to use like an ad blocker, I don't mind. Because sadly, Twitch like sucks regarding that. But yeah, no, this is gonna be more of a just a plot-driven stream, I guess. So I won't be talking much except for the narration. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. And also, B Killer, thanks so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. Oh, Mion made up an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with her contacts. The 80s? After that, neither Rena nor Mion spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Satoko nor Rika-chan looked me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just went back to the way it was. The month since I transferred in had been almost too much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have just liked that feeling, but today, it felt oddly refreshing. The bell rung, sounding the end of the monotonous school day, which had felt so tense, yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join into the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading towards the entrance. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing had happened today, and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep inside me, far beneath in the recesses of my heart, achingly, I knew this would be the last day of this cycle. It's like he's reading my thoughts. I couldn't tell how the ending would be. Whether it would end as I wished it to end, or if it would end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless, in my current state, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me my answers. Or could it be that the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere mixed in with their shrieks, Tomidaka-san and Satoshi were also probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When do I realize it, I wonder? If I will be amongst the Higurashi fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw a Higurashi on its back, spasming weakly. There was still so much of the summer left, yet this one was already chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened. But I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once, as if they had huddled together, fearing that the person who'd brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching. The sound of footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In its place was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all of my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long. But in this moment, when I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly amongst the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass by me? No. Since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell that I'd hidden myself and was holding my breath. The person tailing me, was it Rena, just like yesterday? If it was Rena, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Rena, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps assembled closer. I swallowed, wiped my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on my bat. I could tell that the fear I had beaten back once was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked up from behind the tree at the person following me. My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Rena. It was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew, but that feeling left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Rena that I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent. Yes, it looked like she was grinning slightly. And in her right hand was an axe. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare. In baseball, practicing my swing, there were tons of excuses for me to be carrying a bat. But for that axe? There was no excuse for that. An axe. Just like that.
ケイキくん、かくれんぼかな
My heart was pounding. Hard enough that I had trouble breathing. What little composure I had been able to hold on to was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good, not good, not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here.
レナを驚かせようとしたのかな
I decided that it would be better to reveal myself now, since there was still space between us, than to allow Rena to come any closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat again, readied myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the tree. Rena was pleased that she found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that I had been hiding. Those eyes. They were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Ugh. Not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of vicious hot and cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, that substance would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all of the organs in my body. Not good. Not good. I'll be devoured by Rena at this rate. Strike back. Don't lose.
何の用だよ
I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Rena didn't flinch one bit.
ケイチくんと同じ。帰り道だよ。
じゃあそのナタは何だよ
じゃあケイチくんのそのバットは何なのかな
俺は素振りで
じゃあレナは宝探しなの。
Rena gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon.
宝探し
ダム現場の宝の山にね、また新しいかいいのを見つけたの。だからね、それを発掘するために必要なの。
信じるかよそんなの
信じないよね。
Rena's laugh was obviously very strange. I'd seen Rena's transformation many times before, but the one today was completely different. Like her mischievous tone and the shrewd glint in her eyes. It wasn't something that roundabout. I'm not sure what to say. It was just so obvious.
待ってよ、ケイチくん。
Rena didn't stop walking, even as she let out that eerie laugh. Whenever Rena got too close to me, I would scurry away and turn back towards her. The cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Rena and was trying to escape.
ついてくるなよ。
それはできない相談だよ。レナのうちもこっちだもん。
When I met with Rena on this road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Rena didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? If the way home for Rena and me was the same, that's fine. I just changed my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I'd never been down and knew little about. But Rena saw me do that and followed me while laughing. I don't think we've seen this background either. So there it is. And then the console version of it. Which is... Oops. And then Rena like spasming out for a second. But yeah, I don't think we've seen this BG at all yet. So let's go back to regular ones. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Then just go home down the street you normally do. Why? Why do you follow me down this weird little side road? Those thoughts screamed in my head, eventually spilling out of my mouth.
どうしてついてくるんだよ。
The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror.
ケイチくんとお話ししたいから。ケイチくんもレナとお話ししたいんじゃないかな。
俺は何も話したいことなんかない。
嘘だよね。相談したいこときっとあるはずだよ。
ない。レナと話すことなんか何もないよ。
嘘だよね。
嘘じゃないよ。
嘘だ。
Rena's scream echoed, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only other thing I could do was increase my pace.
お話ししようよ、ケイチくん。お話。
Why was I running down this unfamiliar and deserted street?
ケイチくんには悩んでることがあるんじゃないかな。
ないよ。何にも悩んでない。
嘘だ。
Even though I was running, even though Rena was walking, why wasn't I getting any further away?
わかるよ。わかる。レナはわかるよ。怖いんだよね、ケイチくん。
怖くなんかない。何も怖いことなんか。
嘘だ。
My breathing grew heavy, and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. Rena wasn't even breaking a sweat.
レナだけは相談に乗ってあげられるよ。今度こそ乗ってあげられる。
I had no idea what she was talking about or what exactly she wanted to do.
今度こそ相談に乗ってあげられる。サトシくんの時とは違うもの。
When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, Rena was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop.
サトシ君も悩んでた。辛そうだった。でもレナは相談に乗ってあげられなかった。とても悲しかった。
Where did the street connect to? All these twists and turns, ups and downs. It was hard to believe that this was even remotely in the direction towards my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window.
サトシ君が転校しちゃった時ね、本当に後悔したんだよ。レナが相談に乗ってあげれば、サトシ君は転校せずに済んだかもしれないって、すごく後悔した。
The road led me deeper into the forest. Wasn't I getting further away from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm.
だからね、誓ったの。もしもサトシ君みたいに苦しんでる人にもう一度会えたなら、レナが助けてあげようって。もう人が転校するところは見たくないな。
Damn it. What does transfer even mean? Won't let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as Satoshi.
さあ、ケイチ君、レナに話して。
Also, hi, Ellie. Thanks for stopping by.
レナはきっとケイチ君を理解してあげられるよ。レナだけはケイチ君の味方。
I started wheezing out of breath. My lungs were so hot that they felt like they were going to explode, and my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced running instead of my swing. I couldn't even afford to scoff at that stupid thought.
悩みがなくなれば、きっとケイチ君も元通り。みんなとも仲良しに戻れて、また楽しく部活ができるよ。今度は一緒に組んで、みーちゃんをやっつけようね。
Yeah. How much fun would that be? Then I couldn't even imagine how much I had wished I could turn back the clock on these past few days.
レナともきっと仲良しに戻れるよ。また一緒に宝探しに行きたいね。今度はお弁当も作っていくよ。なんなら今から宝探しでもいいよ。行こうよ、一緒にダム現場。見つけたばかりの可愛いの、ケイチ君にも見せてあげるね。きっとケイチ君も気に入るよ。
My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hot on my heels, Rena's steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run being chased by Rena. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Just that if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was gonna end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything. Not yet. That momentary lapse was all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, my knees buckled underneath me, and I crumbled towards the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Rena was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Rena was so cool and composed that she could have froze the air around her. She wasn't breathing hard at all, rather. I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating.
何が怖いのかな。怯えるなんてケイチ君らしくないよ。
Her expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, that mask of affection. As she admonished me for trembling, Rena's hands were deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms as they moved made me feel as if I was staring at the godliness of the thousand-armed Buddha. Then, as both her hands met above her head, the axe that she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. It was all I could do.
教えてくれ。サトシはどうなったんだよ。
Rena stayed like that, with that axe raised above her head, and solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never to see again. That cruel scenario recited somewhere in her actions.
言ったよ。サトシ君は転校したの。
その転校ってのをやめろよ。鬼隠しってことなんだろ。そうだろ。もう教えてくれたっていいだろ。サトシを消したのは誰だよ。レナか、ミオンか、それとも村の誰かが。答えろよ。
I became frantic the more I screamed, but Rena did nothing but maintain the smile frozen on her face.
ケイチ君が何を言ってるかわからないな。
じゃあ分かるように言ってやる。連続開始事件の犯人は誰だ。
ケイチ君は勘違いしてるよ。
え？
人間の犯人なんかいない。すべてはお社様が決めることだもの。
お社様のたたりなんて迷信だろ。レナは信じてるってのか。
信じるとか信じないとかじゃない。お社様はいるの。
Rena's gaze grew even more gelid. Which means very cold. The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything.
お社様なんているわけが。
ケイチ君は信じないの？お社様。
信じられるはずないだろ。そんなのいるわけがない。
いるよ、お社様。ケイチ君だって身近に感じてるはずだよ。
そんなもの感じたことないよ。
ケイチ君さ、誰かに謝られたことない？それもずっと。
All noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Rena's voice resounded loudly and terribly.
それはね、許してもらえるまでずっとついてくるの。学校へも、お家へも、枕元へも。
I couldn't understand what Rena was saying.
レナのところへも来たんだよ、お社様。だからレナは転校して、ひなみ沢に帰ってきたの。
I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Rena saying?
ケイチ君のところにも、お社様、来てるんじゃない？きっと相談に乗れるのは私だけ。ケイチ君を転校なんかさせないから。ね？
I think that's supposed to be Rena laughing, but maybe the clip didn't play, but I'm not gonna laugh. Rena's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Was Rena saying Oyashiro-sama came to her as well? That's right. Last night I had heard about that when I asked about Rena.
他言無用でお願いします。また内容には一部憶測も含まれているかもしれません。すべてが真実ではないかもしれないということです。よろしいですね。
Oishi-san began speaking.
被害者も学校も告訴していないので、調書がないのです。つまり、警察が関与してないわけなんですよ。ですから、詳細は関係者からの聞き取りのみなのです。つまり、信憑性が高くない。
被害者って言いましたか？レナはガラスを割っただけじゃないんですか？
いえ、 男子生徒が3人ほどリュウグウレナに殴られています。金属バットでです。2人はあざで済みましたが、1人は片目に後遺症を残すほどの大怪我をしたそうです。
それって傷害事件じゃないんですか？警察は逮捕とかしないんですか？
どういうわけか被害者が告発しないんですよ。警察に届け出がないので。
They were beaten with a bat and even suffered significant injuries. Normally, there would be a criminal investigation. But why? Didn't they press charges?
被害者の男子生徒3人にもそれぞれ話を聞こうとしましたが、全員口が重いんです。こう言ってはなんですが、怯えてるんですよ。彼女が転校した今でも。
大石さん、話を最初から整理して話してくれませんか？
So, Rena hit people while she broke the windows. Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? They sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different.
某月某日、リュウグウレナは親しい男子生徒3人と一緒にプール倉庫のあたりで話をしていました。
その3人って何者ですか？
個人名は伏せますが、3人ともリュウグウレナととても親しい仲良しグループだったそうです。彼女はこう言ってんだったんですな。
So it wasn't that strange that the four of them were together.
それでどうなったんです？
理由はわかりません。リュウグウレナはプール倉庫脇にあった野球部のバットを手に取り、3人を次々に殴り倒しました。
There were no witnesses. This was an account pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Rena and the 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help, rather, they usually met up there. It appears it became a heated discussion. At that time, Rena underwent a change. The change was so abrupt that the 3 of them didn't comprehend what was happening. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends one after another. The Dark Passenger. Leaving her friends covered in blood, with gashes on their heads, she made her way towards the school building. Then she broke the glass windows one after another. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on the scene and she subdued her.
レナに起こった変化って何ですか
？3人の証言で一致するのは、突然人が変わった。豹変したという点です。
豹変。
I also could recall Rena's transformation. Actually, what was the key to swap the text? Hold on. I think it was under gameplay. It was. Which one was it? L. Yeah, that's what it was. Thanks. I wanted to look at the kanji for transformations specifically, real quick. So give me 1 second. Yeah, so it's sudden change. So that's the kanji that they used for this. Thanks. I'd seen that change many times before. It was so different from the usual Rena that I couldn't help but believe it was someone else who looked like Rena.
その豹変っていうのはたびたびあったことなんですか？
いえ、そういうのは全くなかったそうです。私も調べられる限り、彼女の過去や病歴等を追ってみましたが、見つけることはできませんでした。
そのレナみたいに突然人が変わる現象って結構。
もちろんありますよ。精神的なものから性格的なものまでたくさんあります。
ではレナには潜在的に表変する要素があったってことですか？
断言はできません。ですが、竜宮レナをよく知る友人たちからの証言では、とても彼女にそういう要素があるようには思えません。
Kind, caring, and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in school like she was now. That girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat. Who could imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself sometimes believe that I was mistaken for thinking that was Rena even now.
そしてどうなったんですか？
学校の正面が病院でしたので、3人はすぐに病院に担ぎ込まれ、手当てを受けました。
レナは、警察はどうして警察沙汰にならなかったんですか？
警察は呼ばれなければ関与はできませんからね。
一人は後遺症を残すくらい大怪我したんじゃないんですか？どうして訴えないんです？
私もそこは引っかかりました。何かの圧力、もしくは脅迫があったのか、それとも訴えたくても訴えられない理由があったのか。
もちろん大石さんのことですから調べたんですよね。
ねえ、まあ。ですが、初めに言いましたよね。被害者たちの口がとにかく重いのです。触れたがらないというか、関わりたくないというか。
Reluctant to talk. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here in the Yashiro-sama's curse.
学校の先生とかからは何も聞けなかったんですか？
学校は聖域なんですよ。隠蔽体質とでも言いますか。私も捜査令状を取ってませんから弱いんですよね。
じゃあ学校側はノーコメント？
No comment.
いえ、事件の存在自体を否定しました。
Oh, does it actually fucking say that? Yeah, it's written in katakana. No comment.
ですが某日、間違いなく病院に3人の男子生徒が打撲で担ぎ込まれたのは事実なんです。病院にその記録が残ってますので。
被害者は語らず学校は否定する。何もわからないじゃないですか。
ねえ、その事件があったという事実以上のことは何もわかりません。被害者たちもこの事件が公になることを望んでいませんので、私と前原さん、私たち2人が忘れれば事件はそのまま闇に消えるでしょうな。
Didn't mean to cut him off. Remember, he just said that the incident will probably fade away if we stop talking about it. For a brief period, we sat in silence. At first glance, it looked like a simple assault case, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were obscured by rolling waves, sinking quietly into the void as if it never existed to begin with.
その後、学校を謹慎で休学します。そしてその間、神経科医のカウンセリングを受けました。
その医者からは何か聞けたんですか？
これがまた職業倫理のしっかりした尊敬すべき方でしてね。口が固いんですよ。もうとにかく。
警察手帳を見せてもダメなんですか？
書面で申請しろと言われました。手帳自体に法的拘束力は何もありませんからね。
じゃあ大石さんはどうやってレナがお社様のことを告白したことを知ったんですか？
一部を聞いてた看護師さんがいましてね。この方は手帳を見せただけで協力してくださいました。
それでなんと？
Turns out that the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently, all she remembered was that she overheard from what she overheard from inside the room.
看護師さんが言うには、その時の竜宮レナはとても淡々としていて落ち着いていたそうです。
It was more like she was confessing her sins at a church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through, her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between just the doctor and Rena for a while.
例のお社様の話はどこで出てきたんですか？
途中です。その名前を突然叫んだのです。だから看護師さんもびっくりして聞き耳を立てたのです。
お社様です。
Rena suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what was said before that, so I had no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor calmly and collectively asked Rena to have a seat.
そのお社様というのは何ですか？
Gently, ever so gently. A fundamental part of counseling is to be a good, patient listener.
ひなみ沢を捨てた人は必ずお社様に追われるんです。そしてとうとう私のところにも来たんです。
竜宮さんが今のお家に引っ越される前に住んでいた町ですね。
私は引っ越したくなかったけど、お母さんとお父さんの都合で仕方なく引っ越しました。でもお社様は許してくれなかったんです。
竜宮さんはきっとひなみ沢にもお友達がたくさんいたんでしょうね。今でも懐かしいんじゃないですか？
帰りたい。ひなみ沢に帰りたい。帰りたいんじゃない。帰らなきゃいけない。本当はもっと早くに帰らなきゃいけなかった。でももうダメ。お社様が来てしまった。
お社様というのはそのひなみ沢の神様なんですね。
誰でも知ってるひなみ沢の守り神様なんです。それでひなみ沢を捨てて出て行こうとすると罰を当てるんです。
竜宮さんが引っ越しをされたのはもうずいぶん前ですよね。では今になってその神様がやってきたということですか？
信じないでしょうけど、お社様はいるんです。
That nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered.
お社様がか。
確かにひなみ沢にはそういう迷信があります。里を捨てて出ていくとお社様の罰が当たるという。このあたりは前原さんもすでにご存知ですよね。
I knew very well what those scorned by the village incurred. To hinder the dam construction project, they cursed the construction foreman to his death. Then the following year, Satoko's parents, supporters, and leading advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I've heard of the curse incurred by leaving the village.
初耳です。村の外敵がたたられるのはわかりますが、どうして出ていく村人まで？普通出ていく者はたたられないものじゃないんですか
I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. Curses weren't something to chase after people. Curses weren't something to chase after people that leave, were they? Oishi-san pondered for a bit on the other end of the receiver, then began speaking again.
ひなみ沢が大昔鬼ヶ淵と呼ばれていたという話はしましたよね。
I recalled hearing that. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as the village of demons. Or
麓
Oni.
の村人た
More
ちは
specifically.
鬼たちを崇めていました。
Actually, let's see if they say it here. I think that is the kanji for Oni. The one next to the O, I believe. Just make sure. No, that one's the kanji for worship. Just the kanji for Oni then. Oni. Oh, it's the one after Ha. Yeah. So either demon or ogre or daemon. Okay. Anyway.
で、鬼ヶ淵は神聖な土地なので絶対に不可侵。 むやみに立ち入るとお社様のたたりがあるとされてきたんです。
Those who set foot in Onikakushi, in other words, Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I could understand that.
それはわかります。でも出ていくのまでダメってのは。
鬼たちもまたですね。属性に出ていかないようお社様に厳しく見張られていたんだとか。つまりお社様っていうのは属性と鬼ヶ淵の交流を禁じていたんでしょうな。
See, I finally understood what sort of thing Oyashiro-sama was. Yeah, like a guard dog.
つまりお社様ってのは守り神ってよりも監視者なんですね。
Or warden, yeah.
この地を外界から隔離しようとする。
そんな感じになるんでしょうな。すみません。私も詳しくないんです。この辺りはばあ様の受け売りでして。
I could understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave it would also be cursed. So, because Rena originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements for being cursed.
つまりレナは望まない引っ越しをしたためお社様のたたりにあったと、そう話しているわけですか。
要約するとそういう意味なんでしょうな。実際この後しばらくしてひなみ沢に引っ越していますから。
Those who abandoned Hinamizawa and left were cursed. But then, why only Rena? Shouldn't Rena's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and have been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big a deal at all. At most, there would be one person dying and one person disappearing on the day of the Watanagashi. I don't like saying at most, though.
まあとにかくわからないことだらけなんですよ。お社様のたたりがどうだったにせよ、クラスメートを金属バットで殴った理由にはなりませんし、被害者まさか前原さんも恐ろしいたたりが起こって被害者たちがすくみ上がったなんてこと信じるわけないですよね。
I skipped it again. Of course, I didn't want to believe it. But, more importantly, I had just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Rena made between Oyashiro-sama's curse and metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Rena as well. She was affected by Oyashiro-sama's curse. She confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon which she used at the time of that horrendous act was again a metal bat. And finally, me. I'd encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding on to a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It couldn't be. Had the same thing happened to Rena. But there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Rena was still here. Both of them had fallen victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally, me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Rena, Satoshi, and finally, me. Could it be that I really was under Oyashiro-sama's curse right now? No. More importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanishing without a trace. Rena was fine. fine? Rena had undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that wasn't Rena residing within her. A dark passenger. And here, right now, it was standing before me.
レナ、教えてくれ。俺はどうなるんだよ。
Rena stood imposingly, not answering.
サトシは消えた。だけどレナは消えなかった。じゃあ俺はどうなるんだよ。
I had never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had become akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or an expression of feeling.
大丈夫だよ。レナが助けてあげるから。
Rena took one step forward, still holding the axe high above her head.
さあ、
One step closer, Rena's face spread out to fill my vision.
話して。
One step closer. Rena's nose was close enough to touch mine, and was still pushing closer.
"話したいことがあるんだよね。レナが聞いてあげる。助けてあげるから。ね。話してね。話してね。"
I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for sympathetic reason. It was all I could do to get as far away from Rena. I had the gut feeling that I couldn't let her laughter end, because when that laugh ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast I couldn't even believe it, and pushed Rena away with both hands. Rena was light as a feather. Thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the axe, she was sent backwards, as if she had been carried off by the wind. After confirming that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. It was a perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from Rena. Run away. Survive. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remembered I'd been holding onto the bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about this weapon at such an important time. I sped even further down the winding path. I didn't even feel myself gasping for breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it as well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I could hear the laughter of that simulacrum of Rena coming behind me. It rang through the trees and in my head, and slowly chiseled away at my sanity. The grove of trees thinned out, and my field of vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment, I was bewildered by the scenery. By the scenery I felt I knew but couldn't quite remember. This looks like a factory or something. Let's see the console version of it. Let's see if I can see what this says real quick. So this says, I can understand. I think that's the. No, I thought that was the darkness kanji. No, so this is just a sign that says entry prohibited. So yeah, I assume this is the dam, more than likely, where we've been running to. But yeah, it just says like, don't enter if you're not permitted to be here. You know, that usual message. Okay, so it is the dam, the landfill. I quickly realized it was the dam site, yeah. The fact that I dashed madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling. Like I was following someone's scripted plot. had a good view of my surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. This was a terrible spot for someone on the run. There was no better place for an attacker. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles in my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. If I stopped here, then they might not even be able to scream. Sorry. If I'd stop here, then they might not even be able to scream for much longer. Even still, I glanced back, looking for an excuse to rest. Rena wasn't there. Instead, I saw two villagers walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief that it wasn't Rena, but a third party. Except the voice inside me rang the alarm once again. Villagers walking around weren't suspicious in and of themselves, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes. Empty-handed, they definitely gave the impression that they were just out for a walk. But at this time of day, two adults wandering around without a purpose, it was enough to raise questions. But more than anything else, those eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking. They were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Was I at the end of my rope and had finally started imagining things? I should run away. That was probably the best choice. If they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. If they were part of the group after me, then they would come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Rena would catch up with me. That's right, I was going to run. Deciding that, the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed towards me, as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I had jumped to the conclusion that Rena was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made the assumption that I didn't need to fear anything else, but right now, I realized just how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly the story Oishi-san told me about the demons all leaving the village to hunt prey floated through the back of my mind. I could tell that they were both coming after me without even turning around because of their frenetic footsteps. It was frightening, being unable to shake Rena off as she slowly closed in on me, but this didn't even compare. Being pursued with such violent ferocity, the straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuer's arms grazed my shoulder. No, it wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but also the distinct sound of their breathing that I could hear. No, I could practically feel them breathing on me. They were already right behind me. Calm down, Keiji. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. No, it felt like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in that frozen world, realizing how close my pursuers had gotten to me. I couldn't win against the legs of an adult. In less than the time it would take to blink twice, when this frozen time began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. On top of me. And then... Don't think about that, Keiji. First, realize that you won't be able to shake them off like this. And if the fact that you can't get away was a given, then you need to make a decision. Go with the right leg, or go with the left. You just need to decide which one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right. Left. I swung the bat in a wide arc with my arms using that inertia. I stopped and suddenly spun. No! The two of them were clearly startled. Momentarily losing sight of me, both of their outstretched arms ready to grab me, instead grasped at empty space. The man on the right, I applaud him for being able to figure it out, spun around on the spot, I shouldn't have been, and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't even need to swing my bat. All I needed to do was extend my arms as I turned around. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it had enough power behind it to knock him off his feet. But just knocking him down wasn't enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain they weren't just two people out for a walk. They were clearly after me. It felt much easier than dealing with Rena. Just by not recognizing their faces, by not knowing them, it made things easier. I smiled wryly on the inside.
俺に何か用かよ。次は眉間にお見舞いするぞ、この野郎。
It's fine if it was just a bluff, but barking out at them, I was able to fire myself up. They didn't respond. They spread out to either side of me, with unbelievably calm expressions on their faces. One of them would grab onto my bat and the other would hold me down. Was that their plan? Taking on both of them at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body. Then I'd just have to settle it with the first move. I'd step in and strike the first one down. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right who had already been knocked down before, I stepped in and swung with all my might. There was no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. It would cause immense damage. If they blocked it with their arm, their bone would snap like a twig. If they turned their back to it, then it was possible that the blow would travel all the way to their vital organs. It looked like he was aware of this. He pushed further through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right into my gut. Not good. With this distance and this position, and in this state, there was no way for me to dodge it. The world flipped upside down. I understood that I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I landed on the soft earth without a sound, feeling the grainy soil press against my face. It didn't hurt at all. But the moment I thought that, I suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions on my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well that I didn't have the time to relish this experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment, the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge it made it all the more upsetting. After plowing into my stomach full force once again, my assailant twisted around behind me and locked this thin arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled, or that I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened, and a silent whining noise began playing deep inside my mind. It took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out. While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel that he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake this arm off me, I couldn't run. I couldn't fight back. In dire straits, I couldn't even come up with a phrase that adequately described my situation. A familiar ceiling. The smell of the bed and pillows, I knew them well. Was this my room? Normally there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me, but their presence made me spring wide awake. When did I? Pain shot throughout my entire body.
大丈夫かな?
It scared the shit out of me a little bit.
横になってた方がいいと思うよ。
Why was Rena in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and capillaries. But Rena's smile belonged to the Rena I knew well. I knew I shouldn't let myself feel this way, but I relaxed thinking that this version of Rena was safe.
俺はどうして？
覚えてないの?
意識がなくなってからのことは全然。
My body had become more lethargic than I could have ever imagined. I guess that would be the expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least clear my head, but I just couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. Yeah, Rena's so kind. She looked after us, she probably found us and carried us back. Everything's gonna be okay.
一応お医者さんにも電話したから、もうすぐ来ると思うよ。 それまで横になってた方がいいと思うな。
I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring.
俺どうしてここにいるんだ？確かダム現場で。
それはレナが聞きたいな。何があったのかな。レナが行った時にはケイチ君倒れてて。
だから聞きたいのは俺の方だよ。変な二人組に襲われて。
As I talked about it, I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went along with it caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Rena to be nursing me. I thought Rena was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she had nursed me back to health.
よく俺を引きずってここまで来れたな。重かったろ。
Looking at Rena's delicate frame, it was hard to believe that she had not only gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up to the second floor. Did she have some help?
ケイチ君、覚えてないの？
Rena appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile.
レナはケイチ君に肩を貸しただけだよ。大丈夫、自分で歩けるってケイチ君が。覚えてない？
I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point I lost consciousness.
二人組はどうした？レナが来た時、俺と一緒に、あるいはそばに二人組の男が。
いなかったよ。
She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at that time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Rena. But if I did that, then this kind Rena might transform into the scary Rena who I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were there, I don't think Rena would have even stood a chance. I couldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two were already gone. Rena was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something. Something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Rena was still Rena, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi-san. Rena stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep.
トイレに行きたいんだけどな。
ごめん。
Rena couldn't say anything else. While Rena stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. While I approached the front door, the doorbell rang. It must have been the doctor Rena had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in a doctor who was making a house call. But it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time it would take Oishi-san to get here. I carelessly opened the door with a simple assumption, and regretted it almost instantly.
ミオン。
あれ元気そうだね。倒れてたって言うから様子見に来たんだけど。
なんで俺が倒れてたって知ってるんだよ。
レナが電話してきたから。他に理由が必要？
I understood why she would I understood why she would call a doctor. But why Mion too? Rena was descending the stairs behind me.
レナ、ケイちゃん大丈夫そうだよ。たく、心配して損した。
そうだね。レナも心配して損したかな。
They both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them.
うわ、なにこの下駄箱。どうしてたの？
The shoe rack I'd smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday.
転んでさ、その拍子に持ってたバットで叩いちゃったんだよ。
持ち慣れないもん振り回してるからこういうことになるんだよ。
I kept the fact that I had that it was none of her business to myself.
でもこれじゃおばさまたちが帰ってきたらびっくりしちゃうね。後でレナが片付けておくね。
さあ、ほらケイちゃん。重病人なんだからちゃんと寝てないとダメだよ。さあさあ、お布団に戻った。
Determinedly ill. Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call Oishi-san. I was pushed into my bed. As it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Rena. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary.
レナ、監督には電話した？
うん。みーちゃんに電話した後すぐにね。すぐ来るって言ってたよ。
Director. That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. Rena called a doctor, then called Mion, and after that she called... a director? Who was this director? Since Rena and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd.
二人とも何の話をしてるんだよ。監督ってなんだよ。
Kanto-kun?
ケイちゃん死んないの？監督って言ったら監督だよ。
映画の監督とか。工事現場の監督とか。
I dug through all of my memories for a director who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Rena had just said. The construction site foreman. The very first victim of the first incident. The dismemberment at the dam construction site. The foreman? But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There was no way they could call him.
お前らが何の話をしてるのかわからないよ。その監督が俺と何か関係あるのか？来るって言ったけど、うちに来るのか？
I asked one obvious question after another. But all the two of them did was smile at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly, I felt discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Rena and Mion were
ケ
talking
イちゃん
about.
最近は野球に凝ってるんだよね。監督それ聞いたら喜ぶと思うな。
だから監督って誰だよ。
監督は監督さんだよ。
だから監督って誰だよ。
Rena and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. That disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh, long enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly.
そうだ、監督が来る前に済ませとくかな。ケイちゃん覚えてるかい？
Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story.
覚えてるって何をだよ。
ケイチくん忘れちゃったのかな。罰ゲームなんだよ。罰ゲームなんだよ。忘れちゃったのかな。おはぎの宿題。どれがレナの作ったおはぎかを当てる宿題。あれ、 確か宿題忘れだったよね。
I certainly did have that homework, but I had thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle, so I wasn't able to answer which one Rena made. The penalty? For that? Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Her answer to my question was that dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think that this entire day was somehow insane. Strange. Incomprehensible. Being chased by Rena. Attacked by strange men. The penalty Mion and Rena were talking about. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take that long for me to realize that I had been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Rena and Mion? Almost a doppelganger. Not the way it's supposed to be said. Rena had gotten behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back?
何の真似だよ。
動かないでね。罰ゲームだから。
My body was already very sluggish, and Rena pinning my arms made it much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength, it would have been impossible for the Rena that I knew. Then, these thin, frail arms grasping me firmly. Whose arms were they?
ケイちゃん、抵抗しちゃダメだよ。快速大何錠でもいいや。罰ゲームに抵抗しちゃダメなんだからさ。
Mion. No, that thing that looked like Mion. Spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain that this was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion. Someone who was just pretending to be Mion.
監督が来る前に済まさないとね。
Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I couldn't tell what it was just by looking at it, but for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it.
なんだよ、それ。
It was a small syringe. It was a small, clear syringe, the kind a doctor might use if you went to them with a high fever. Rena held me even tighter, and I could hear that clattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ear. That eerie laughter. It wasn't something that Rena... it wasn't something that the Rena I knew could ever produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Rena. Was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer. And that needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times.
大丈夫大丈夫。痛くないから痛くないから。
何をする気だよ。これは一体何の真似だよ。
ケイちゃん、何言ってんだか。分かってんでしょ。
何が？俺には何が何やらさっぱりわからねえよ。
知ってるくせに。今さらかまととぶられてもな。
わけのわからないことを言って俺を煙に巻くのはやめろ。
富武さんと同じ目に遭ってもらう。
The same as Tomitaka-san. I didn't really understand what she meant. What did that have to do with the syringe?
ケイチくん、とぼけてるね。 うすうすは気づいてたくせに。
Rena whispered into my ear, laughing, as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Plain dumb. Me. About what? What do you mean, the same as Tomitake-san?
みんな初めはひき逃げされたものだと思っていました。ですが、意識を確かめるために近づいた警官はすぐに異常に気づきました。喉がね、引き裂かれていたんですよ。
ナイフとか？
爪でした。
Nails. Nails as in fingernails? With those gouged through? That's right. Tomitake-san had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. So then, for that to happen...
薬物を疑いましたが、そういう類のものは検出できませんでした。
That's right. The police didn't find any drugs on Tomitake-san's system.
警察は富武さんの遺体から薬物は検出できなかったって言ったぞ。
The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume that such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning, the drug that caused Tomitake-san to die in such a bizarre manner did exist. If Mion injected this into me, then that would probably be all the proof I needed. That would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tomitake-san. Become hysterical, scratching out my throat in my last moments, then die. For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mion to be holding it, and that I was about to be injected with it, at that moment I did not feel there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight for his face, has the time to think of a reason as to why it's flying at him?
観念しなって。んじゃ。
Mion's actions lacked any gravita, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she was brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through my body, had run through the back of my head, and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast? Or did someone hit me really hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. I squatted down for a bit. When I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly, I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or has it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time had passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before. Only a dull silence. But Rena wasn't there pinning my arms, and Mion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was a hallucination? There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. It was certainly with Rena and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess that terrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Rena nor Mion, they wouldn't ever do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I didn't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her a deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls that splattered had undoubtedly come from Mion. She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Rena. That same Rena was slumped at my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Then they beat these two down with this metal bat. I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in the deep red. There was no doubt that this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. And I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house.
俺
Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it.
俺がやったのか
That's right. Keiichi. Of course I did it. Or of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you?
違うこんなに
Neither Rena nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead that trickled of blood, nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with just 2 or 3 strikes.
死んじまったのか二人とも
The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do it like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. Come on. Once, twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head and relaxed. Color came back to my vision and smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remember what happened when I blacked out. Rena and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitaka-san. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Rena as she was pinning my arms. Then I followed through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Rena tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat was left carelessly by the side of my desk. Weep, right? The Higurashi. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself had told me not to look, and had turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone blank and I couldn't see it, it didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, the scene right before my eyes was still so difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere on the walls, the two of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of movement from them. Couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I'd even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all there. It was all here. The two of them collapsed here in the neon syringe. Neon syringe filled with some unknown drug that would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitaka-san. And from the fact that both of these two were involved, they'd be able to pick out the criminals one after another. Still, I might be suspected for this. But that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into darkness like Rena's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oishi-san would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning my wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth, that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The doctor Rena called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I needed to contact Oishi-san. At that moment, I remembered. Besides the doctor, a director had been called. It was easy to imagine they were someone deeply involved with the incidents, judging from Rena and Neon's conversation. The ache in my chest caused by the gruesome deed I'd done dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since the people were speaking, it must mean there was more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site today. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door, pretend to be a doctor to get me to open the door, and then the rest of them would all rush in at once. At that moment, I saw the car parked behind the men, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van. No mistaking it. The van, the one that had tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then use a public phone to contact Oishi-san. Then meet up somewhere. First of all, I need a weapon. Then shoes. But before all of that, there was one thing I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'd live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Oyashiro-sama. But what would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my own demise. And that was why there was one more important thing to get out of here right now. I needed to get that clock out quickly and take down the note from behind it. Damn it. The tape was sticking to it. The tape was sticking to it fast. It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi-san, then the only thing I could rely on was this note. I'd never thought a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only written what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Rena and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it. But it was a fact. Anyway, I'd leave all the information that I could help lead them to finding the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was an unidentified person known as the director. To begin with, the term director didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the directors in the past incidents, then the only one is the construction foreman, the victim of the first murder. The very first victim in the chain of incidents. Killed in the lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Rena and Mion did both call him director. They said director. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Oishi-san. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of this string of mysterious deaths that would follow. So then, there must be something hidden here. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think as much. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, there's something even more important I need to write. Tomitake-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right, that drug, it was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt, just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe onto the back of the clock with plenty of tape. So it absolutely would not slip out and fall to the floor. Firmly. Firmly! The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore. But even still, there was one last thing I had to write. I had no idea why it became like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote on this note. If you're reading this, then I am possibly already dead. Though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. That's us. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it back onto the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray, Oishi-san, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Rena and Mion. This was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Rena, Mion.
俺、みんなのこと、本当に友達だと思ってたんだぜ。
But why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores, about if the school I hoped to get into was where I really wanted to go, or a safety net. That was all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals, in studying, in competitions, in personal records, and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was really fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have had no obligation to shed tears for them, but they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life, even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that had happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be those happy days were all a facade as well? Was it all a trap, meticulously orchestrated up until today to ensnare me? Could it have been that I had just arbitrarily assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Both Rena and Mion, they really were my friends. Those happy days, there was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try to kill me, or their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Oyashiro-sama. Regardless, both Rena and Mion were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. But they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends, no matter what means were employed to force them. And there was no way such a thing as being possessed by Oyashiro-sama could happen in reality. Then, did the real Rena and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten down both Rena and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real real ones or fakes. And there was no real or fake. The only reality that was before me. Rena and Mion were sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit, that I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Rena and Mion were both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded, and in that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Rena and Mion, I killed them. The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Rena for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So that I can't die. For my sake and for the sake of the late Rena and Mion, I have to survive. I ran towards the door, grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me on. Behind this single solitary door, they were there. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen. Headed towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly so as to not make a sound. A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of there, Keiji. One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence. Those things you use when you have time to spare spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. I probably had no complaints whatsoever. So, of course, I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran. Just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was without a doubt chasing me like a shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran at full speed. That was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening, trying to tell me something, and then I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran towards where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the further I ran, the further away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. 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 I felt that only the Higurashi knew. The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recalled hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about a tenth of the municipality's revenue. We were the most heavily taxed members of this municipality, so I really wish they'd show us a little more respect.
どうしてこれがウーマン切りなんすか？
Is he playing fucking mahjong right now?
街が狭くなっちゃうっすよ。
One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the mahjong magazine called Next Turn. I knew it.
ウーマン切ってもテンパイ崩れませんから。配定にかけるなら両面で受けた方がチャンスあるんじゃないですか？
クマちゃん、川を見てください。
Normally, I'd explain things like I've done in the past. I'm not gonna explain mahjong or what any of that meant, as I'm still traumatized by like Kaiji and Akira and a few other series. So we'll just continue.
ウーマンは全員切ってますから安牌なんですよ。終盤で K 点に走った誰かがダマで待ってたら嫌でしょ。
The kid let out another groan, put out a cigarette, then took out another one.
納得いかないっすね。わざわざ自分で当たり牌減らすなんて。
ちなみに配定で当たり牌出しても論しちゃダメですよ。
え？どうしてですか？
Just then I heard a voice coming from down the hall.
大石さん、いますか？一般の方から凱旋です。
ありゃこりゃどうも。それじゃちょいと失礼。
どうして論しちゃダメなんすか？あ、待ってくださいよ、大石さん。
Anyway, I won't explain like the rules of mahjong. Just know that like you have certain moves and you can be in like in a specific state. And essentially he's just discussing a strategy to win. Also, hi Mina. A lot of things have happened. So you might be a little confused as to what's about to happen. So I don't blame you if well, if you're confused. Just know that we are currently on the run, essentially. The man sitting on the seat, or in the seat Oishi-san was heading towards, waved at the telephone
凱
receiver.
旋です。講習から。
ああ、どうもすいません。お待たせしました。大石です。もしもし。
大石さんですか？
H. Jesus fuck. I keep
もしも
forgetting.
し。
前原さんじゃありませんか。どうもどうも、こんにちは。
From the tone of Mayabara-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. It was the first time Mayabara-kun had phoned me. He was calling me from a
落ち着い
payphone.
てください。何がありました？
その、あ
His voice was erratic over the line. He had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone.
何があったんです？落ち着いて前原さん。今そこに近場の警官を行かせます。私もすぐそっちに行きますよ。
多分無理です。
His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people, even as he was making this call, was he?
前原さんは今公衆電話からかけてますよね。どこの公衆電話ですか？
There was no other sounds beside Mayabara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hiramizawa phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines.
落ち着いて前原さん。今どういう状況なんです？
It was best practice to avoid flustering someone panicking, but this was an urgent case. Keiichi didn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at Keiichi right now would just needlessly cause him to be even more frantic. Keiichi wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. And whatever that was, if I didn't get it from this call, I was certain there would never be another chance. My colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinamizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes.
かかりすぎです。警らには何人乗ってます？
2人です。
Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there were likely quite a few people surrounding Mayabara-kun. 5 minutes was too long.
南沢の駐在さんには電話しました。
定時巡回の時間です。家人は留守で連絡不能。
Oh my god.
そう。熊ちゃん、車を回してください。
了解っす。
もしもし、おじさん。
もしもし、大丈夫です。ちゃんと聞こえてますよ。
There was something wrong with Keiichi. That wasn't a normal cough sound, or coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? He had already been attacked? Was he injured?
前原さん、今そこに警官が向かってます。2、3分で到着しますからなんとか持ちこたえてください。もしもし、聞こえてますか？前原さん。
I could hear on the other end of the line that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head.
前原さん、犯人は誰です？何人なんです？
俺も最初は人間が犯人なんだと思いました。
I couldn't tell if that was a cough or vomiting.
大丈夫ですか？前原さん。
犯人は人間なんだって。お社様のたたりなんかないんだって。そう思ってました。ついさっきまで。だけどやっぱり。
It was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting.
やっぱりお社様ってのはいます今。
前原さん、どうか落ち着いて。
なんかさっきからおかしいと思ってたんです。ずーっとつけてくるんですよ。走っても走っても走っても走っても影みたいにぴったりくっついて、だけど少しずつ俺の背中ににじり寄ってくるんです。
前原さん、そいつは今ひょっとして前原さんの後ろにすぐ後ろに。 お願いです、前原さん。怖いのはわかります。ですがお願いです。あなたの後ろに誰がいるんです？
振り向けるわけないじゃないですか。振り向いたら俺
怖いのはわかります。でも教えてほしい。ちょっと振り返るだけでいいんです。前原さんの後ろに誰がいるんです？
Right after I said that, I could hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound.
前原さん、あんたまさか喉を引っかいてたりは しないでしょうね。
There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang as if someone was being hit. Maebara-kun had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting over the other end and a repeating abnormal noise.
もしもしもしもし前原さんもしもーし
I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment I heard whispering coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there?
もしもし前原さん
Rather than whispering, it was some kind of mantra he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses trying to pick up what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly... Suddenly, the line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because it was a payphone. It was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind.
おいさん、車は OK っす。おいさん。
ごめんなさいが。
おいさん。
That was what he was repeating over and over. He said, "I'm sorry." I had a gut feeling. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from an open window. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Were they trying to tell me something? Or, sorry, only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. June 1983. In Hinamizawa, a remote village near Shishibone City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. The suspect is Keiichi Maebara, aged like 15. The suspect called over his 2 female classmates, Rena Ryugu, Mion Sonozaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. The inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of a struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway, living room, and kitchen all had traces of a struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it is believed that the destruction occurred before the murders. There is the possibility that the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. It is hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle with the victims, and thus reason for this remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart, and its contents spread out to the floor. Garbage was strewn about in the surrounding area, and handprints believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed that the suspect had for some reason taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. The reason for this remains unknown. In addition, there was a note stuck to the fridge. The words, "Was there a needle?" were written on it. The meaning behind this remains unclear, just in case the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the suspect moved in. The garage door was found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinamizawa Local PD, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious and in critical condition. He was rushed over to the local hospital for treatment, but did not regain consciousness and died 24 hours later. The results of the autopsy indicate the immediate cause of death to have been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed at his own throat with his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. Oh, Keiichi. With a similarity to the death of Tomitaka-san the prior week, the police believed there to be a connection and have opened an investigation. However, due to the wishes of the local authorities, it will be a confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomitaka-san, no traces were discovered. What prompted all of this remains inexplicable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. Or as an act committed on impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it is possible that this was premeditated. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, inexplicable behavior, several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates have actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police have begun an investigation on the possibility that this crime was not committed on impulse, but was instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was found in the suspect's room he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets of B5 college ruled notebook that had each been torn in half. As if to try to conceal it, it was stuck behind a clock on the wall. The contents are written in the appendix. The police believe it to be strongly related to the incident. What happened to the needle? To the syringe? The police changed their line of investigation based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive or premeditated? With the situation unclear, no further developments, the case has been labeled as unresolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose again regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 paper from 2 separate sheets, but was originally a single sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It is highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from the traces of large quantities of cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, speculation that something other than the note was stuck there has arisen. The person who first discovered the crime was a detective rumored to have a connection with the incident, Kurado Oishi. He underwent voluntary questioning, but denies involvement in any damages to the note. The suspect's note. I, Keiichi Maebara, am in fear for my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Rena and Mion are conspirators for the perpetrators, or of the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white band. This is all in the first sheet. The section below this has been ripped out. This is from the second sheet. The section above this has been ripped out. I have no idea why it has become like this. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead. Though you may or may not find my body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. Keiichi Maebara. Oh my. Oh no. A new scenario has been unlocked. All cast review sessions have become available to play it. Select extra on the title menu and then pick the all cast review section. Man, what a... I'm gonna click the extra button so it doesn't start the... Sorry, so that it doesn't start the intro movie. But man, what a... What a first chapter. Now, I have quite a few thoughts, and I have about 4 theories as to what could possibly be going on. I'm not going to mention them now, and I'm not going to go into it right now. But that's something that we're going to cover tomorrow when we have the like discussion stream, when I invite a few people on and we'll just talk about, you know, what's going on with Higurashi. So, in the meantime, let's do the cast review session. And then I think there's supposed to be a minigame after this. So we'll look into that as well. Yeah, I don't know if anyone actually has. A friend of mine was telling me that some dude had an idea. He was playing through the game for the first time. He looked into... He decided to spoil himself. He's like, all right, so what's the mystery? Because he thought it might have been something. And then whatever his theory wasn't like real. Like it was like whatever he was thinking wasn't true, or what he thought he discovered as a spoiler. He looked into it. He found a spoiler. He thought that was the actual ending. Apparently it wasn't. And then because of that, he's like, well, I'm not going to play the rest of this game anymore because this thing that I think might be the spoiler, the real fucking truth. Well, I'm not going to, like, why should I play the game anymore? It's so fucking funny. But it could be like shadow government gang stalking. Everyone in the village is all in on it. Yeah, you'd have to be like L or Detective Conan to know like what's been going on. I mean, for all I know the answer. Like whatever is going through my mind right now, for all I know, I could be 100% correct in what I'm deducing. But like I said, I'm not gonna go into that until tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow in great detail. We'll have like a 1-2 hour like podcast style like stream where I'll have like 2 other people and we'll talk about our thoughts on the first chapter, and then we'll give my impressions and stuff like that. They won't spoil the game for me. They've both played it to my knowledge, and we'll see where that goes. But that's gonna be until tomorrow. And if you're watching this on YouTube, well, it's gonna be for later. So you'll just have to tune in tomorrow, like around 7 p.m. Central, 7:30 Central when we start. But let's go into the cast review and see what's up. Because for all I know, it's more info.
日暮らしの泣く頃に水鬼隠しをプレイされた皆さん、お疲れ様でした。いかがだったでしょうか。ちょっぴりでも楽しんでもらえたらとっても嬉しいです。ちょっぴりも何も。あんなすごいバッドエンドで終わられたらプンプンでございますことよ。プンプンなのです。だから実質上のプロローグの位置づけなんだって。そのプロローグがこんな凄まじいバッドエンドでございますの？
でもそういうのってあるじゃん。
I wouldn't say this is like Rena or like Neon living. I'm pretty sure this is like Heiichi in his like delusional state before dying. He's like imagining this in the phone booth. And he's like, what the fuck is Higurashi? What the fuck do they mean buying this game and enjoying the dark secrets?
この最悪のバッドエンドを回避するためにプレイヤーさんが物語を模索していくのがこの作品の醍醐味だし。
まだ始まったばかりですよ。僕は次のお話が楽しみなのです。
これからどんな話が待ち受けてるんだろう。レナは聞いてる？
Yeah, they're witches and he's in purgatory. In the end, it was actually just it was the Truman Show, but with like Keiichi and some like village where he was gonna die. Like everyone was in on the joke except for him.
今回の鬼隠しではひなみ沢で近年起こった連続開始事件が紹介されたでしょ。例えばみーちゃんのシナリオではひなみ沢の古い歴史なんかが紹介されるんだって。
異常事態の連続ですっかり分かんなくなっちゃったけど、お社様のたたりってどういうものなのか。いや、そもそもお社様って何なのかあまり説明なかったからね。
よくは聞いてないんだけど、でも なんか嫌な予感。またしてもたたられそうな嫌な物語です。
ケイちゃんも大変だね。今度はどんなたたりにやられるやら。
でもどんなお話になるのか楽しみでございますわね。
いやいやいやいや、遅れてすみませんね。
やあみんな、お疲れ様。
お疲れ。
Like actors after shooting a movie, they're all just chilling, you know, on set and talking about stuff after the scene that they just finished, you know, recording
あれ
or shooting.
ケイちゃんは？
ケイチ君はもう次のシナリオの台本読みに行っちゃってるんだよ。主人公だから大変だね。
あれ、残念ですね。ちょっとだけでも顔を出してくれればよかったのに。きっと喋るワード数が多すぎて居残りなのです。
If they did that, if they had like bloopers for this shit, that would have been like really fucking funny. Like if it's like Keiichi like coughing his lungs out in the phone booth, and then you've got Oishi-san being like Keiichi-kun or Maebara-kun is like ah, I can't do this, Oishi-san, this shit's too funny. He's just laughing his ass off.
前原さんのセリフだけで普通のアドベンチャーゲームなら全員分の量がありますからね。
Nowadays, that would be referred to as a skill issue, Rika-chan.
しかしケイチ君やレナちゃんなんか特にだけど大変なお話だったね。
大変も何も大大バッドエンドでございますわ。結局ケイチ君を襲ったのって正体は何なんだろう。
Yeah, she shouts something else instead of like liar. And then everyone's just fucking laughing.
たたりに見せかけておいて実は人間の仕業ってのが僕の推理なんだけどね。
でもケイチは最後に謎の電話をかけてきていましたのです。
うん。私もあの電話は変だと思ったね。あの時点でケイちゃんは犯人は人間だと確信してたはずなのにさ。
おかしな電話でしたわよね。なんかお化けに追いかけられてるみたいな。あの電話だけだとやっぱり犯人って人間じゃなくてたたりなのかなって思っちゃうよね。
せっかくですから意見を出してみようじゃありませんか。
So all of these, I assume, are going to be red herrings, obviously. So this is kind of like, if you thought this was the theory, you're fucking wrong.
じゃあ園崎さんから。
And there's going to be like 7 of them.
私は絶対に人間説。ひなみ沢の怪しい昔語りかなんかになぞらえて誰かが起こしてる人為的事件だと思うね。
Okay.
確かに毎年お祭りの日になると起こる連続開始事件なんて怪しいもんね。
その連続開始っていうのも何かの昔語りの再現なんだよきっと。
Yeah, I agree. It needs, like, you need to be in a specific mindset to be like, all right, I just finished the prologue to this series, the first chapter to set everything up. Now I'm going to write an entire post game where I put myself in the mind of the characters and then pretend what they would think the mystery would be if they were seeing this happen from like an outsider's perspective. Like, what the fuck?
私はたたりだと思いましたよ。玄関でケイイチさんが暴れたシーンとかラストの電話のシーンとかを見れば人間が犯人では説明がつきませんもの。そういえばそうだよね。
That's true. I'm pretty sure this is again just like I said, these are possibly red herrings and just common like conclusions that the average person might make when playing through the game and reaching this point. So, you know, because the average person, you know, because again, when it comes to just analyzing any work of fiction, be it, or any work in general, be it literature, be it you know, a play, be it a poem, or in this case a visual novel, there are multiple levels of analysis to any type of analysis that you want to perform on set piece. And usually the surface level analysis is what you can just come to a conclusion of by essentially just reenacting the entire thing in your mind, right? So like, what happened throughout this entire event? Keiichi discovered the murders, he looked into it, he was chased down, he died, right? Surface level analysis would just be Keiichi got too close to the truth, and the residents kind of just pinned him down and you know, killed him, right? Like that's what the average person would think. But then of course you have to go deeper than that by using other clues that you were given throughout the playthrough, and this and this and that, right? I'll go a lot more into that tomorrow when we go into the discussion. But it's very interesting that that this even exists in the game.
とても人間の仕業とは思えないシーンだったし。
僕はそれでも人間が犯人だと思うね。あの玄関やラストのシーンは追い詰められた圭一君の被害意識からの妄想じゃないかって思うんだ。
難しい言葉を使われてもわかりませんわ。つまり怖がりの圭一が見た幻だと言ってるのです。
To an extent, you are correct when it comes to the analysis of mystery plots, but in general, even with literature, there are specific rules that you are set to, because you have to restrict yourself to these rules in order to analyze any work. I won't go into it because it's a ton of stuff when it comes to literature, but the short of it is, there's various schools of thought that you can analyze any works through. Like one of the most common ones is like feminist, right, theory. So imagine you play through this game and your whole intention is to analyze the entire first chapter of Higurashi through a feminist perspective. So what do? You apply common things that are found in feminist literature, and you try to find how those things correlate in Higurashi, and then say come to a conclusion as to like, okay, Higurashi sucks as a feminist, like, you know, piece because of this, right? Like that's if you want to use that school of thought. But if you want to go with just like just from like a mystery novel perspective, at this point you kind of just go through all the context clues that are given to you through this game, at least through the first entry of the series, and go from there. Like, well, I get what you mean by being unbound, right? Because there's so many like possible ways that you could tackle this like story and get to some sort of conclusion. But in general, if you just stick to the rules of the world and what you've been told, you should be able to come to a conclusion, at least one to keep you going, right? Right. So it's still just very, very interesting. Like, I need to, what I was gonna do after this was we're just gonna replay a little bit of the first scene, just to kind of piece things together a little further one more time.
じゃああのシーンの正体は圭一さんの後ろにいた謎の気配は何なんですの？
引っ掛けだよ、引っ掛け。
Yeah, spell it out, Mion.
みーちゃん、引っ掛けってどういう意味？
富武のおじさまが言うようにさ、あのシーンは追い詰められたケイちゃんの被害妄想のシーンなんだよ。それを濃密に書くことでプレイヤーにたたりだと思わせようとする演出なんだよ。だから引っ掛けってわけ。
それを言われると、でも。
I'm 100% sure that my initial analysis is correct. I know for sure this is what's going on. But I've never read the series.
まあそういう可能性もあるってことだよ。
だとすると、犯人は複数で村ぐるみっていう劇中の大石さんの推理は正しいのかな？当の本人の大石さんはどう思いますか？
私ですか？ 悩みますね。
あれ、僕はてっきり大石さんは人間説だと思ってましたけど。
劇中の私は犯人は人間だと断じてますが、人間が犯人だとするといろいろ不可解なことが多いんですよ。
Right. Satoko doesn't even know the difference between broccoli and cauliflower. So she should shut the
例えば
fuck
ど
up.
んな？
Well, she was being confused by Tomitake's words a bit ago.
大石刑事さんの推理を聞かせてください。
まず人間が犯人だとすると、絶対に動機が必要なんです。こういうことをして誰が得をするのかってことなんです。
つまりおじさま、人間が犯人なら連続開始事件を起こすことによって誰かが得をしなくちゃいけないってこと？
そういうことです。ダム開発の関係者が死ぬうちは利害も感じられましたが、近年の犠牲者はそれとも無縁です。第一、前原さんを殺して誰が得をするというんです？
なるほど。そう言われると僕も弱いな。
だってお金とかも取られてはいないんですもの。人間が犯人なわけありませんわ。でもそうとばかりは限らないんじゃない？さっきみーちゃんが言ったように何かの昔語りの再現そのものに意味があるんだとしたら。
そういうこと。これは営利殺人じゃないんだよ。きっとこれは村の血塗られた歴史を再現するための何らかの儀式的殺人じゃないかなって思うわけ。
では聞きますですが、それを再現すると誰か得をするのですか？
得をするんじゃなくて、もっと心理的なもの。僕は何かの復讐じゃないかと思うね。土着的な何か。今回のシナリオでは語られなかった因縁だよ。
なるほど。過去にひどい扱いを受けた暴家の人たちが先祖の恨みを晴らすためにってな感じですか？私はそれにも反対ですね。
じゃあ何？大石さんはまさかたたり派なわけ？
そうですわそうですわ。刑事役の大石さんが言うんですもの。たたりに決まってますわ。
劇中で前原さんが言うように、親代様が竜宮さんや園崎さんに乗り移って悪さをしているって考えると一番辻褄が合うんです。残念ながら。
実はレナも大石さんと同じ意見なの。
Yeah, I still feel like everything that we've discussed in this little chapter is just a red herring. Just some summaries, just obvious, like, you know, conclusions that someone might reach.
あんなに優しかったレナやミーちゃんが突然おかしくなるなんて、そうじゃなきゃ説明つかないもの。
そこはミオンの私が言うのも変だけど、やっぱり私なんだと思う。
ミーの話の意味が分かりにくいのですよ。説明が欲しいのです。
Imagine if they just referred to each other by their like voice actor names instead of like, you know, like Mion or here like Mi-chan, right? They actually just referred to themselves by their CVs
ああ、ごめん。
or CV names.
つまりさ、これってすっごく残酷な話なんじゃないかって思うんだよ。
何ミーちゃん、それってひょっとして。
突き詰めるとそうなるのかな。僕もちょっと疑ってる。
つまり竜宮さんも園崎さんも実は本当にああいう性格で引っ越してきたばかりの前原さんを騙している悪魔なんだと、こういうわけですか？
It would just be funny if they did, but of course, like this was all written before. I mean, this was written in what, 2002, 2003, which was, you know, just something that a dude like made and then like distributed at Comiket or whatever.
そんなの嫌ですわ。
Oh no.
これは全部タタリの仕業なんですのよ。
2002, yeah, 100 copies.
レナさんもミオンさんもみんな優しい、いい人がいいのですの。
Oh no, the gremlin is crying. Oh no.
レナもそうだな。レナやミーちゃんって本当にいい人なんだって思う。きっと劇中で出てきた厳しいシーンは何かに取りつかれてたんだって思うの。
レナもタタリ派か。じゃあタタリ派の皆さんにお聞きしますけどさ、タタリが怒るからにはそれなりの理由があるんでしょ。無差別にタタるとは思えないな。そこんとこ説明できるの？
タタリはタタリですもの。人間の考えでは想像もつきませんわ。
さとこちゃん、擬人化された神様という存在は結局は人間の生み出したものなんだよ。だからその考え方も人間に理解できるようにできてる。ギリシャ神話の神様を見てごらんよ。泣いたり怒ったり嫉妬したり、とにかく人間的なんだよ。
つまりお社様もまた人間同様に何らかの利害に基づいてタタリをしているという。
変な言い方になっちゃったけど、つまりはそういうこと。
触らぬ神にたたりなしって言いますからね。
Yeah, the second he said that, I was like, okay, we're referencing, like, Greece now?
一理あります。
つまりお社様にせよ人間にせよ何か理由があるはずということなのです。でもリカ、その理由がはっきりしないならどうなりも、つまりはわかんないということなのです。
Sorry, I keep reading it too fast and think that they're done talking for a moment.
そうだね。まだプロローグだもんね。明かされていないことがたくさんあるだろうし。
そうだね。現時点ではこれ以上の推理は難しいね。
いんにゃ、白黒つけないと納得できないな。
ミオンさんもこだわりますのね。
I would, but I would have it on auto, but it's mainly to give others like enough time to read as well.
限
Besides
ら
them
れた
just
状況で
voice acting
最
it,
大限に推理する。
because there's some lines that are pretty short, you know, and they'll read it out like in one or two like words, and then bam, like the whole screen will swap, like all the
ち
text
ょっ
will
と
be
部
wiped.
活感覚で面白いでしょ。
Like here, like this is like 4 words, but it's a pretty long sentence in English, and then it completely moves.
そう考えれば面白いかも。
じゃあ整理してみましょうか。私はたたり派です。富武さんは人間派でしたよね。
ええ。僕は人間が犯人ってことでいきます。
The best track in the game.
私も人間犯人説。もちろんタタリというファンタジーは嫌いじゃないよ。だけど今回の事件に限ってはタタリの線は薄いね。
人間派が2人出ましたね。リュグさんはたたり派でしたよね。
はい。レナとサトコちゃんはタタリ派です。ええ、タタリ派ですわよ。レナさんやミオンさんのことを悪魔みたいに言う人の方がよっぽどタタリに会うべきですの。
そりゃあまあ私も自分のキャラがそんな悪魔みたいなやつだとは思いたくないけどさ、部活モードの時にはクールでなきゃ。感情論だけで選ぶと大やけどするよ。
まあまあ、どっちを選んだっていいじゃないですか。
あれ、リカちゃんがまだだね。どっちだと思う？僕はお社様が悪い神様だとは思わないですよ。
あれ、面白い意見だね。
たたってばかりの悪い神様なら 祀るのは嫌なのです。僕はたたるよりご利益のある神様の方が好きなのですよ。そっか、リカちゃんって巫女さんをやってるんだよね。うん、いい意見。
じゃあ何？リカちゃんはお社様じゃないって思うなら、やっぱ犯人は人間って思うわ。
そういうことにしますのです。
by accident.
ありゃまあ、票がざっくり分かれましたね。たたり派と人間派で半々ですか。
I guess Rena-chan, just for reference, because this wasn't voice acted. What did the test players who played the beta versions think? Yeah. There were a lot more players who believed in the people explanation. See, right there. Our veteran comrades are cool, collected, and very observant. But the beta version only finished partway through the story. That's right. Even the people who played the beta, the beta might change their minds if they got through to the very end.
どうすんのさ。これじゃ意見は半々。決着がつかなくて面白くないよね。
裁判官が奇数なのはつまりそういうことだからね。
So, from what I understand, this is like a what if of just the characters voicing their opinions on what the like true mystery of the novel might be, right? It's just like, here's some varying opinions, right? This is what like these characters would probably think. Maybe. That's what I'm assuming. Realistically though, I think these are just like red herrings of like the author being like, here's some possible common theories that people might come up with, and they're more than likely wrong, but we'll see.
あと一人意見が欲しいな。
あ、ならちょうどいいかな。ケイチ君本人に聞いてみない？電話で。たたり殺された本人の意見は貴重ですよ。
Oh, I wonder if they're gonna have a sprite for Keiichi. I don't think we've seen him at all yet. I know what he looks like because I vaguely remember the anime, but he's also just like generic Japanese boy, like just a dude wearing like black or brown like school pants, his shirt, a white shirt that's tucked in, a black belt or something, just normal school shoes, and I think he has brown hair.
そうと決まれば早速電話ですわ。
Yeah, it would be funny if one of them was like, just, it's like, here's the entire like mystery like solved for you, and it's right in the open.
Moshi, Keiichi-kun?
Yeah, Keiichi-kun, who the fuck killed you? Who do you think killed you?
Rena です。今お仕事お忙しいですか？
ああ、忙しいぞ。シナリオが1本終わって一休みって思ってたらすぐに次のシナリオだもんな。
ケイちゃんどんな感じ？
See, I thought we would have a Keiichi sprite for like this moment. Like him appearing on screen. Because otherwise there's really no reason to, you know, for him to appear.
忙しいって？
うん。
But as for the anime, I've only seen like the first few episodes. Like I think it was up to episode 6. But this was all the way back in like 2009 or something. I was watching it like each week as it aired.
拗ねてる。
聞こえてるぞこら。お前ら打ち上げ会でいいよな。俺も出たかった。
収録の残り台詞数で僕たちの誰か一人でも抜いたらケイチも参加できるのですよ。
Okay, so there is no sprite for him.
リカ、あの量でそれは不可能ですわ。あ、それでごめんねケイチ君。今回のシナリオでね、ケイチ君、死んじゃったじゃない？犯人は誰だろうねってそういう話をしてるの。
つまりさ、ケイちゃんを殺したのは人間かお社様のたたりかってことで意見が分かれちゃってるのよ。
本当にごめんね。台本読みで忙しいところ ケイチ君はどっちだと思うかな？
そんなの決まってんじゃねえか。
どっち？
どっちなんてもんじゃねえよ。村の怪しげな奴らに狙われて、さらにお社様とかいう怪しいのにたたられて、人間もたたりも全部、これは何かの嫌がらせか。
かわいそうかわいそうです。今度頭をなでなでしてあげますですよ。
結局意見が分かれちゃったね。
But yeah, once again, I mentioned this like at the start of the stream, like when we started the series. But my experience with Higurashi was literally just me checking out the anime as it was airing, or as it was being fan subbed, like years and years ago. And it was one of those anime that, as other stuff was coming out, I was also watching that, and then I kind of forgot to get back to Higurashi, so I never saw it again. So I guess without spoiling it for those that don't know about it, all I remember was up until the Colonel scene in the anime. I remember the dark village scene, or not dark, but the village at night scene. And I remember Rena and I believe, not Rena, Rika, was it Rika? Yeah, Rika and the kitchen, I believe. So, you know, if you've seen the anime or if you've read further up on Higurashi, you probably know what I'm talking about. So that's what I remember vaguely. There's also the mansion, I think, and bamboo. I believe that was also another part of it. So that's vaguely what I remember. But as for how we got to that, as for what happens, how that happens, I don't remember any of that. Because again, it's been almost 20 years. Oh my god. Holy shit. I think I watched it more around like 2010, I think. So, like that's you know, that's kind of what I remember. So to anyone that hasn't like seen Higurashi, hasn't read Higurashi, or hasn't played Higurashi, that means nothing to them, which is good. And those of you that have, you're like, okay, I kind of know what he's referencing.
私ももう一度考え直してみます。見落としがあるかもしれませんので。
Yeah, you
それ
think
で
you know,
は
but you
引き
don't.
続き、日暮らしの泣く頃に水をお楽しみくださいね。
I wanted to do something real quick here, and that's this. Yeah, Rena just wants to give me more RAM. And that's this. So very quickly, if I was gonna be ripped apart anyways, having my body ripped apart would have been far better. I trusted her. No, I still trust her. Even in this very moment, I trust her. But I'm starting to realize I only wanted to trust her because I refused to accept the truth. It was as if I was trying to convince myself in such a silly, sobbing voice. And those tears making a mess of my face. That mechanical, repetitious sound finally stilled, and everything fell silent. Only the cry of the Higurashi remained, annoyingly loud, and yet I felt as if I could still hear her voice. But that's not possible. She is no longer speaking. The only one crying is me. She never cried. Even when she repeated those words over and over, she never expressed any emotion, because there were none to show. If she had no tears to shed for me, then I shouldn't need to shed any for her. That's why, this pain, my eyes getting moist, why was this happening? I still wanted to believe I hadn't been split apart. That's enough, right? Inside me, an inner voice, that's enough, right? Inside me, an inner voice whispered gently. My spirit had suffered enough, and countless times I'd wavered over whether I should just throw the battered thing away. Except, I've stubbornly refused to do that, haven't I? I feel better if I just threw it away. Even knowing that, I chose to believe, didn't I? Only I can understand that painful struggle and appreciate it. Hey, me? I've tried more than enough. I'll acknowledge that much. So, isn't it alright to just take the easy way out? Besides, I'm not throwing it away. I'm leaving it behind, with her. Like flowers by a grave. Now then, calm your nerves. Even though you can't feel your right arm. Just lift it up, and with every swing, forget a little more. That kindness made me happy. That adorable smile brought me joy. I liked petting your head. I loved how demure you were. Because this will be the last time. Because when I swing this down, I'll forget. This is my first and last bouquet for you. Perhaps I really did love you. And that was basically what happened at the end before Keiichi died. That was essentially the scene where Keiichi murders both Rena and Mion. Right? With each swing he forgets, and so on and so forth. There we go. Okay. Now we can do it. That's okay. So please choose a scenario that you have completed before that scenario will be noted as having been completed. So we've started Onikakushi. You may now proceed to the Watanagashi at the title screen. Click start, then select Watanagashi on the next screen. You can now play the minigame Rena Punch. On the title screen, click Omake and then minigames and select the Rena Punch. And then scenario jump mode added. Okay. Okay, so now Omake. And now minigame. And then the Rena Punch. Oh my god. Rena Punch. Choose the mode. Okay, story or Rena speed. Oh god. Okay, once more, let's take that last scene from the top. Hey, aren't you giving us... aren't you giving us two completely different answers? After teasing Mion so much about her offer, giving in to Rena wasn't nearly as much fun. But getting Mion annoyed, it made things even more interesting. So I hurried Rena forward, quickening our walking pace to leave Mion behind. Right, so this is when like we're walking back together. Let's go, Rena. We'll go out tomorrow, just the two of us, and leave that sarcastic Mion behind. Kage-kun, well, if you're okay with it. Hey, I'm the one who proposed showing him around. Don't you forget that, Maebara Keiichi. It'll be such fun to have a picnic, just the two of us. Will you be bringing lunch, Rena? Oh, you want a lunch? Then I'll make one. I shall. Don't you forget it either, Rena. When word gets around that you two went to a hotel. Oh my god. Right, there it is. So yes, Rena will hurry home and prepare lunch. I can't wait for tomorrow. Bye, Kage-kun. Bye, Mi-chan. Rena skipped off like she was walking on the moon. The dust cloud settled, leaving just me with Mion, who was splayed out flat on her back, even more bruised than before. Are you okay? You and Rena had to have been 2 meters apart. Since you've come, her punches have gotten stronger and stronger. It's ruining Uncle's health. Or this old man's health. Wouldn't it be better for her to, like, not say and do stuff that gets her beat up? Or maybe that was a practice for her comedy routine. Either way, she took a real life or death risk there. Don't give up, Mion. You're the only one who can dodge Rena's jabs. But I think she threw in a knee in there too. Aren't we hanging out with an unbelievable boxing champion? She just might be a future contender in the world of extreme sports. We can't lose to Rena. Mion, let's train for a revenge. Kei-chan, do it yourself. This old man will hope for your success. And so Mion and I resolved to master Rena's amazing punch. Hold it right there. What the heck? Tomidake-san? And Oishi-san? What do you want? Tomidake? Wrong. I'm no longer Tomidake. Call me Tomi. Tomi? I'm no longer Oishi-san right now. Kuraudo is what I wish to be called. I can understand calling Tomidake-san Tomi, but what's with Oishi-san wanting to be called Cloud? It's the sort of name you expect for some dreaming soldier with a split personality. Oh my fucking god. And they reference Final Fantasy of all fucking things too. I haven't even played 7 and I know that. Anyway, that's because my full name is Oishi Kurado, which sounds like cloud. Doesn't that make sense to you? All of a sudden, Tomidake-san and Oishi-san show up and want me to call them by these suspicious holy names. The heck is going on here? Kage-kun, just a moment ago, didn't you resolve to master Rena's amazing punch? You did, didn't you? I'll just see it right there in the script. Well, resolve is just a figure of speech. I wasn't really planning to challenge her. You're too soft, Kage-kun. For a Japanese boy of all people to get beat up by a girl is just like lying down. You're hopeless. Just call me soft, Tomidake-san. Tomi. Call me Tomi already. I feel silly calling him that, but he's sure to beat me up if I don't. I'll just have to get used to it. But Tomi, Rena has a punch that can't be seen or avoided. Let's just forget about mastering it. It's impossible. Indeed, hers is an attack difficult to perceive. Even so, Kage-san, you can surmount this obstacle. But Kuraudo, there's no way I could have that kind of skill. Oh yes, there is. I, Cloud, as well as Tommy here, guarantee it. I don't really get these two. They're unusually fired up for some reason. They really want me to do some kind of special training. It cultivates your visual acuity and reflexes. Starting slowly at first and gradually speeding up. Once you've passed all 3 levels, the superhuman reflexes sleeping inside you shall awaken. I'm gonna kind of speed read this now a little bit. Can it really awaken that sort of ability, even in me? Tommy and Cloud's eyes were full of passion, their eyeballs aflame like an ideal gym teacher from a TV drama. After one heartbeat, Tommy began to answer my doubts. Kage-kun's questions is perfectly natural. Everything in this world is either a truth or a lie. You have to be cautious until you're able to distinguish between them, of course. That may be so, but Maebara-san, in this world, there's only one kind of interaction built entirely on truth with no falsehood. Do you know what that is? What? I felt bewildered for a moment. Just then, the two of them began to whirl around, scattering blinding white light. The one and only interaction with absolutely no lies is a man's punch, isn't it? The dialogue between men, I knew it. Yeah, Mion is also just on the fucking ground, like right now. Parents, teachers, weather forecasts, and simple test questions, all of these may lie to you, but never shall we. Joy, anger, pathos, humor, excitement, sadness, romance, and of course, moe. This really is 2002. Oh my god, only conversations with men who truly share your values may transcend the issue of truth or falsehood. Me, and Cloud, and now Cage-kun too. As those who share a single soul, we are soul brothers. A bolt of lightning passes straight through me, and then hot magma comes welling up from the pit of my heart. Have I ever talked to men of such passion before? This is just how homies talk in like Discord. Whenever we get into the group chat, this is what it's like. No, never. This is the kind of passion I have sought for so long. Tommy, Kuraudo. We three locked together in a manly embrace, sobbing tears of gratitude. Now then, back to the main topic. The Rena Punch Mystery Simulator, or Mastery Simulator, or for short, Rena Pan. A virtual Rena-san will punch you over and over with her various blows. What do I do? Use the mouse? Exactly, you use the mouse. If a punch comes flying from the right, then click right. If it comes from the left, dodge to the left. Right click for a punch from the right, left for a punch from the left. That sounds easy. But it's not just about avoiding the blow, it's also a matter of timing it well. You should try to click when the punch is about to hit. From time to time she'll throw a feint or a slow punch. Don't be impatient. Wait for the punch to draw near before you click. When she throws feints too? What, when she throws feints too? It looks like I can't deal with this by ordinary means. It's fine. It's fine to click with your index and middle fingers, but some may find it more comfortable to use the index finger of both hands to see what works best for you. Oh, so have both hands on the mice. Does the cursor position matter? Not at all. Just left and right click. That's all there is to it. Alright, I have the main idea. Now I guess I learned by doing. You cleared the game after you managed to avoid 100 punches. Don't worry, even if the time seems long, it'll be over before you can say, whoa. You of all people should be able to do it. Well then, let's give it a try. Are you prepared for this, Maebara-san? Yes sir, I'm totally ready. No. Huh? Cloud wagged his finger in admonishment. Ours is a relationship that transcends the bounds of age. There's no need for useless formality. A warmth that stirs my heart. I feel no sense of discrimination with these older men. Then they and I are, no, we are soul brothers. Soul brothers. Okay, let's give it another try. All set, Cage-kun? Oos. And the three of us knock fists as we give each other a thumbs up. Well then, shall we begin? Rena pun. Ready, set, go! Oh god. Okay, I dodged two of them. And they got knocked out. Shall we try again? Yeah. And this is level 1. Why is Rena in this outfit? Click too early. We'll try it a few times. I got to 10. What? That was 23. Alright. We'll try it one more time and then we'll probably stop here. Oh, sorry, I double clicked. I clicked left and right. Okay, this is the last one for reals. Jesus fuck. She fucking flipped. Did you see that? Like, she was gonna do a right click, or sorry, a right punch, and then she just flipped to the left. All right, but I think that's a good stopping point for this.